right, people, welcome to a very impromptu episode of Natty News Daily. Messaged Ben yesterday, and here we are. So thankfully, we were able to line this up. For those that don't know Ben Howard, I'm sure many of you do, but Ben, give a brief introduction, tell the people what you're all about, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Okay. So, Ben Howard, I've been competing in drug-free bodybuilding since 2009, been training since 2005. Some of the biggest shows that I've done that listeners will be heard of, a lot of UKDFBA shows. I won the national title as a novice, as a couple of years later as a middleweight in the Open. And my most recent season was 2018, where I turned pro in 2016 at the IMBF Worlds and WMBF Worlds, won my WMBF Pro card, and competed. My pro debut was the 2018 WMBF Pro International, which I won, and I won the overall, which was pretty cool in my debut. And then I went on that year to win the WMBF Worlds in the lightweight category. And that was the last time I was on stage. That's 2018, so nearly 3 years ago. I'm going to compete this year again in the UKDFBA in the pro class. It's going to be quite a small class since obviously the pandemic and not as many people flying around to different shows. It's going to be fairly small, but I know that the competition is going to be I could win or I could lose. It's as simple as that. It's always a real high caliber competition. It's all the way through amateurs to the pros. It's world class. And then plan on competing in the PMBA. So there are many shows in Europe, which is fantastic for us over in the UK. So looking to possibly get over to Romania for the World Championships there. And there's signs of borders opening up to the US as well. So the big one is that Natural Olympia over in Vegas, which I would see as it's in line with the Mr. Olympia. It's the Natural Olympia. It's the caliber of athlete there is world class. There's some absolute legends that come out of that show. So I'd love to be in the mix there, and it's an open show as well. So there's no hiding away there. I'm up against heavyweights, middles, and if you get top 5 in that sort of show, you're one of the best in the world. So that's my goal for the foreseeable future.
That's awesome. So for those listening, clearly quite the resume that Ben's amassed over the years. It's crazy that it's been since 2018. That seems so long ago.
Yeah, that's right. So it's been a long off season. Since then. Yeah, so much has happened of on a personal level, but also globally.
It's a different world.
Yeah. The last couple of years have been crazy.
You guys over in the UK with how things have gone there, and
Yeah, it seems to be everywhere really. I've got quite a few friends over in the States, and it's just nuts, isn't it? And obviously Europe as well, Italy. France, Spain, there's constant lockdowns, constant rules changing, and touch wood, things look to be as good as they have been for the last couple of years. And as I say, I think that borders are opening. Transatlantic flights are going to be back on the card soon.
Yeah. When is the Natural Olympia? Would that be the last?
So it's second week in November. So it's 2 weeks to the UK, 6 weeks to the Natural Olympia from now. Yeah. So we're at the end of September right now.
I hope that works out, because that would be awesome.
Yeah. And it looks like at the start of November, flights may be allowed. You may have to jump through hoops. This is the thing, is you can get on the flight, but if you need, to have 2 jabs and different tests and different visas, and we'll see how it goes.
Is it an issue getting out or getting back in? I would imagine getting in.
It could be both. You might have to isolate either end.
Is the US holding it up? I'm surprised.
I'm not sure. It's changing
Okay.
all the time. It can be a weekly change. So
the goalposts, are constantly
that's
moving.
right. Yeah, only a couple of weeks ago, you had to from in the UK, you had to isolate once you were back off holiday. You had to isolate for 10 days in a hotel of the government's choice, and had to pay for that for about $5,000. You're talking big money on top of a holiday. It was just putting people off, and then they just take it away, add it back. So you just don't know. But if
the virus
all
is
the
spread out
stars,
everywhere already, it's like
yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
right. Yeah,
I don't get the isolation thing. It's like
yeah, it's in that hotel as well. But yeah, no, hopefully the stars align. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But as I say, there's lots of other options which are fantastic. In IMBA, IMBF, there's lots of European shows which are a lot easier accessed, from the UK, which is great.
you've got a great scene over there. So even if you can't get to the States, it's
Yeah. Obviously, it's huge over in the States. It's growing massively. They have a European tour, which they involve Romania, Hungary, Italy. They have some big shows in all of those, and they are world class, with a big stacked pro class there as well.
Awesome. So one of the big things I want to talk to you about is, your approach you're taking to this prep. So for those that maybe don't know or don't follow Ben, conditioning's kind of one of his big talking points. Man gets shredded. And, you've spoke about it in the past where, maybe going to that length comes at a cost, whether it's fitness or, just, lean tissue at that point. So, you've touched on social media about not necessarily going to those lengths this time around potentially. So I kind of want you to talk about that and just explain your mindset towards that, the approach you're taking, what you're doing differently this time around. And obviously the look, I think, is going to be improved from what I've seen anyways. So
yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, let's take this back quite a few years. So, obviously coming up through the sport, a few years into training, don't have a huge amount of muscle tissue or maturity. So the only cards that I could play really was, if I work really hard and outwork everybody at the dieting game, I can maybe get leaner and I can win that, that part of bodybuilding. I'm never going to be the biggest guy. I'm not going to change my genetics shape. But if I can get leaner, then brilliant. I can tick that box. And I ran with that. Of looking up to guys like Brian Whitaker, from day one, it was always condition, and dieting more and more. Every time I competed, it was like 20 weeks, then 24, then 28, and from about my third season in, started seeing some good conditioning, and especially in like the glutes and that sort of thing, from the heavy squatting and then obviously dieting. And I got a bit carried away with that. To be honest with you, the last two seasons, 2016, I got quite a lot of attention from that. And I admit that it took me, I got a lot of positive feedback and people going, oh my God, I've not seen this sort of conditioning. It's like that top 2%. And I thought, this could be my thing. And then I took it a step further in 2018, and pretty much I looked my best about, 165 to 168 pounds. When I was totally fat free, I had lines in my glutes all the way in. But then to hit a weight category, to hit a weight class at the WMBF Worlds, I needed to get under 160. So as you guys both know, when you're lean, 8 pounds is a lot. 8 pounds is, it's going to take, it took me another 12 to 16 weeks from being pretty peeled, and I'm talking sleep disruption and really grinding in the gym, to then get on stage, and that messed with me pretty bad, to be honest with you. I did, obviously the result was fantastic. The end result, I won the WMBF Worlds, and I got in my best ever shape, but I didn't look better from below about 165. I just kept chipping away, and it was obvious in the logbook. I log all my lifts, and we'll probably talk about that in a bit. But I was seeing almost weekly drops in performance, and that was given 100%, accounting everything, food, and I was simply just digging into muscle tissue, and I could tell my metabolism was slowing right down. I'd never get blood work done, but I could tell that my hormone levels were dropping like crazy. And it wasn't really until after the season was done, because obviously you're so focused on that goal, and I would have done whatever it takes, obviously on a natural level. I would have worked as hard as I needed to work to get that goal, and I did. I'm glad I did, but one, I didn't look better for it. I just looked a little bit leaner, and to get that extra 1% conditioning from the 4 or 5 weeks before at the UK, which I was totally peeled and I won the overall. I dieted hard for another 5 weeks and I lost maybe another 5 pounds, and didn't look any better. In fact, I looked worse. I was flat, I was stringy, I looked so tired, I was ill. And that 5 weeks tipped me over the edge after the contest. I didn't, go off the rails or anything, but I definitely blew up 30 to 40 pounds before Christmas, and that's from November to December, and that was with training, that was hitting over 10,000 steps a day. That was not missing, prepping food, and I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was just, uncontrollably binging in the evening and, having to work it off or trying to work it off in the day. And I held my hands up and I was like, this is too much. This isn't what bodybuilding is about. It's about building the body, being better, leveling up, and developing both mind and body for me. So
why keep digging the grave if it's already deep enough,
Exactly. Yeah. And my conditioning, the judges' feedback was, at the UK, you are the most conditioned person I've seen in recent times. And the feedback was for the worlds, just hold this look. So I could have effectively added a few hundred calories and improved my fullness, because I was still quite flat because I was very lean.
Done the Brian Miner approach.
Absolutely, yeah. And I could have probably come in the same weight, looking a pound leaner, but a pound fuller, and that would have done me proud. But I had to make a weight. I would have been in the middles against Babacar and guys of that caliber. I probably wouldn't have cracked top 5, being a smaller middleweight. But so that kind of sparked my change for this year, which was I wanted to be in a much better position to diet. So I made sure at the start of the year, I kind of tied it up. I was probably 195 pounds. And I made sure by the time I started prep, I was about 180, so about 15 pounds above stage weight, 20 weeks out. So, and that was with that was simply eating between 3,000 and 3,500 calories a day, making sure I'm hitting my 10,000 steps, which I kind of always do. Still training as I always do, and regulating off-plan meals to maybe 1 to 2 per week maximum, instead of just like off-season as and when, So I did that, lost the first kind of 7-8 kilos, or 15 pounds, and then I could just maintain that for a month or so, and then started prep, which was a little bit more regimented. I started about 3,000 calories, and funnily enough, I'm 18 weeks into prep now, with 2 weeks out, and I'm still on 3,000 calories there, because I started leaner. I only had 14 pounds to lose in 20 weeks, and I just I'm a lot more active now. 10,000 steps is a very, I'll do no less than 15. It's more like 20, because I'm a personal trainer by trade. Yeah, I do. I teach HIIT classes at work. I do some coaching, but that tends to be in my own time. So 40 hours a week, I'm teaching classes, personal training, lots of personal training sessions throughout the week. and I work in quite a big kind of leisure centre, fitness centre. So, yeah, and I've got 2 kids that I run around after as well, and a dog that I've got to walk, and just generally on the go all the time.
It's crazy how the life situation, makes a
Yeah.
difference. And I mean, Leroy, you and I have talked about it, like, because right now, I'm targeting 8,000 steps, and I have to keep a close eye on it to get there.
Yeah.
I actually have to pay attention to it, like, especially when right now I'm out for work traveling, and actually it's actually easy to get 8,000 when I'm traveling. But when I'm home, I work from home, I'm not that active. I have to actively monitor it throughout the entire day to get to 8,000.
It was the same with me during lockdown. I was, even at one point, I know we were given by our government, we were said we were allowed to go for 1 walk or exercise session per day. So I was like, right, this is going to be a fast 1 hour power walk, and I was hitting 10,000 steps. I think for 6 months I didn't get above like 12,000 steps. It was just 10. And I had to really like put that in. So I totally agree. And these guys, if you're sat at a desk all day, you're going to struggle to get more than 5 without even trying. That lifestyle changed. Doing so from April onwards, when like our gyms reopened, I was back at work full time and everything else. It's not been really lower than about 15,000 a day, 15 to 20 seems, which is
so you're probably back in a normal groove, and that's probably better for the prep anyways.
Yeah, and then obviously burning through a lot more food. It came at the right time at the start of prep as well, and that's been all the way through now. And I'm now weighing 166, 167. And I'll probably I'll compete about 165. So I'm nearly there now. That I'm in that last kind of pound or 2 to come off. I know
that's your low weigh in. That's about your low. Although you have to weigh in. So how do you manage that?
So we're not actually weighing in. No, we're height classes. But in the pro ranks, there's not even height classes. There's it's an open. So that lends itself really well to a healthy prep.
That's right, because this prep, that's changed.
So we're not doing weight classes at all. In the amateurs, there's height classes, which is great. You don't need a pair of scales for this prep anymore. I simply use the scales as a tool to make sure I'm not losing weight too quickly. In fact, so it'll be, if I am losing, what it's like when you're dieting, you can get really lean and then things start speeding up. And you get really sensitive, and with all the steps that I'm doing, I don't want to be losing more than about a pound a week, so I will refeed if I am losing too quickly, and that's all I'm using the scales for. It's not to aim for a weight, it's just to keep the weight up, really.
It's an objective measure you can use. I mean, obviously there's fluctuations in it, but like you can look at trends and understand what's going on. And
absolutely, like we track our calories, and we track our, we track our training. So I just like to keep an eye on it, and it's also interesting to see. Yeah.
Are you self-coaching then? Sounds like.
Yeah. So I've always I've never had a coach, but Lee Kemp, who runs the UKDFBA, he kind of took me under his wing way before I started competing. And I wouldn't say he's so much of a coach, but he's more of a mentor in a lot of other areas as well. He's helped me in the business side of things. He's helped me, of course, in training. He has, led me the way in terms of the way I train, the way I diet, the way he taught me how to pose. Everything for bodybuilding related, but it's way more than that. It's not just a coach. He helps me make some big decisions in life, family, business. He's a real inspirational guy. He'll never admit it, and he'll cringe when he hears me say that, but I look up to him like a big brother, really. And he took me under his wing. He's never taken a penny off me, so I don't want to call him a coach. He's never taken anything off me. In fact, he's funded shows and picked me up from my house and taken me to shows and stuff, and he's been there for the last decade, 100%, and he's still there now. So yeah, I'll pop round his house. He'll have a look at me and go, he knows my body better than me almost. He'll be like, when was your last refeed? And he'll know by the day. Or he'll be, okay, well, you've got 2 pounds too low. You've had a hard leg session yesterday, haven't you? And he'll know everything. So yeah, he's coached me, but it's a bit more than that, a bit more of lifestyle and bodybuilding.
A lot of wisdom. Yeah, and so much knowledge. He's like a walking encyclopedia, that guy. If you said to him like 1968, who was the Mr. America, he would be like, yep, straight away. It's ridiculous, his knowledge. Yeah.
Do you think
that's awesome?
From your experience, do you think more organizations should adopt the height over weight class approach?
I mean, just going from my own prep this year, I feel fresh. I could have kept my prep secret from my missus. She wouldn't have known, because I've been so, she said it herself the other day, haven't even realized you've been dieting, because you're still eating lots of food, you're still quite chirpy, you're working all the time, and you just kind of getting through it. When before, when you have to make a weight, when you have to kind of grind through, because you have to aim for a number, you might have to diet harder. And I see it all the time, young guys and girls messing themselves up a little bit to over diet, to get lines in their arse, really, to get glute striations, when really that will come with heavy progressive training for a long period of time, get a lot of muscle tissue, and then just a sensible amount of conditioning. I'm not saying, the look should be better when you're conditioned, but the condition has to match the fullness and the muscle size as well. It's got to be in ratio. It can't be one extreme or the other. Just like you can't have somebody who's massive and soft. There's an incomplete look. You can't have someone that's shredded and small. So the best look is that balance. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Because inevitably, there's a trade-off there, and it's not like you can just diet forever, and the longer you diet, the more you diet, the better. It's like there is probably a line there, and you know.
And it shows on stage as well. If somebody has, and I see it all the time, the best, and I'm quite enjoying seeing this now, the best glutes in the lineup, and then they get fifth, and they're like, how? Look, these guys have not got but because they've got the fullness and the condition. It's not
a glute contest.
Else.
Yeah,
it's not. No, it's not. And I don't want to be remembered as well as the glute guy, which I'm kind of known at the moment for. Is that guy with glute striations, but I want to be that guy with glute striations with now fullness. And I know that this year I've got a bit more size and a lot more fullness in terms of chest, shoulders, arms. Typically for me just fade away when I'm over dieting, and I've managed to keep strength and therefore size in those areas just by keeping carbohydrates higher, keeping food higher generally. And as I say, 3,000 calories and no less than about 400 grams of carbs a day, proper dieting, and I feel great, but I also look good, especially after training. I look at myself and go, maybe I shouldn't look this good, because, you feel like you're dieting hard, and you compare it to other preps. And you think, well, maybe I should have lost some muscle by now, because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to dieting away a lot of muscle out in those last few weeks, but it doesn't have to be that way. And as I was going to say earlier, it's really not, that's the competition, and if you look better for it, great. But I'm more concerned with these young guys after competing, messing themselves up hormonally, taking a year to recover, and I took, after 2018, I was still messed up 7-8 months after that show. And
that's the reality of the sport. I mean, to at least a certain extent. I mean, regardless of how hard you're going to have a recovery period, even out of your prep now.
And it should be,
it's a reality.
It should be 6 to 8 weeks. You're starting to feel normal. You feel normal, and you feel like you're in the off season. Your food focus is way down. That's how it should be. There is going to be a transition because it's an extreme, but it should not be best part of a year and then boom, you wake up in this kind of off season, you're 40 pounds overweight, and you feel terrible again. You feel terrible again, worse than you did when you were dieting, because now you're fat, you're unhealthy, and you're not even that much stronger. So it's it's a pain in the ass. So what I would do, and what I will be doing this time, and it's a big part of this process this year for me, is a good recovery from prep, to show that you can get in excellent condition, improve on your look from last time, and then within 6 weeks, by Christmas, enjoying Christmas, still lean, back to normal, and I want that to be the norm. When people ask me about prep, I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, you're the guy that blew up, 40 pounds because you couldn't handle it. I want to be that guy that does it professionally. So that's going to be a part of my prep this year, is actually my rebound. And I've already committed to a guest posing in Denmark in their nationals in May next year. So I have no choice now. I've committed to that. So
kind of keeps that target, or a little bit of a target, so you don't get completely out of. I'll enjoy, because without that goal, without that, without that tunnel vision of something, it can be hard to kind of keep things from going off the rails.
Yeah, and I really admire the athletes that do keep it really focused. Not too much, but they're really focused, and their off seasons just like their prep, which is very much what I'm going to be doing from now on. A good example of that, AJ Morris. I know you guys are both familiar with AJ. He competed last year, and he has improved so much in 1 year. So that's recovering from a long prep, that's making some really good off-season progress, and that's dieting again all the way down. And he's going to be doing the same show as me. He looks fantastic. I don't want to put any pressure on AJ, but that's how it's done. That's how I want. I've never been as controlled as AJ has, coming out of a prep, but that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be having a productive off season by Christmas, have months of hard progressive training, and then I'm only going to get about a stone over contest weight. So I'm only going to need to diet for 16 weeks, and that's going to give me another 2 or 3 months of progress, in the off season.
Yeah. So sounds like you got a sneak peek at AJ, because he has been a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm good friends with AJ. So I saw him at the UKDFBA's Heart of England show, which is our last qualifier of the year. I saw him the week before last. You can tell by his face that he's on his game. And then I got him to send some photos over as well. So I'm not gonna say any more than that. But you guys will see in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, teaser coming from Ben too. That means a lot. So
yeah. I'm not just a friend. I'm a fan of AJ. The way he conducts himself, not only as a coach but as an athlete. He is world class at what he does. He is world class.
Quickly, before we go, touch on your training, because I know how you train, your mindset towards training. The frequency in which you train is an interesting topic. So I know not a lot of people know as much about it as I do from our previous conversation. So could quickly go into your training a bit, Ben, before we go?
Yeah, sure. So it gets quite a bit of attention just because it seems too easy, or too simple, shall I say? I train 3 days per week. I have had a period recently of training 4 days per week, just because of during prep, it was quite a bit easier to split up my 3 sessions into 4 in terms of being gassed out by the end of the session. But for 99% of the time, and I'm actually back on a 3-day split now, it's 3 days per week, either upper and lower, or a 3-day split, like a push-pull legs or something similar, legs, chest and arms, back and shoulders, that sort of thing, based around heavy, low volume, progressive weights. And that's how it's been 90% of the time for the last decade, you know. That's how it has been. I simply saw that if I trained less, heavier and more basic, I recovered better and I progressed better. And that dominoed, you know, and before I knew it, I'd gained 20 kilos to my main lifts and 10 kilos to isolation work. And lo and behold, you're bigger and stronger because of it. You know, who would have thought? So I kept with that. And then during prep, it's very tempting to, you know, start looking at what other people are doing. And okay, so maybe I can train this more frequently and bring this. You're not going to build muscle during that ship sailed. You know, you should have been doing that in the off season if you're going to try it. So I've always just gone into preps the same, 3 days per week, you know, non-consecutive days, basic exercises, tracked and progressed, and try and progress that all the way through your prep still, you know, or at least maintain your strength during the end of it. And it's the same now, you know, workouts are about an hour after warming up, 3 days per week, big basic compound exercises stay in there. I still squat and deadlift and press and row and, you know, all those basics, and they work now just like they did when I was a junior competitor. But because of the accumulation of strength and progressive overload over a decade, you have this hard, grainy look. And I do believe that kind of higher intensity training does bring on a different look. It does for me. You know, if I have, you know, gone with some sort of, you know, got carried away with higher volume, higher frequency for short periods, and it just flattens me out. And, you know, I just tend to turn into this kind of bit bloaty, not very hard look, you know, and that's in the off season as well. You know, in contest, I've never done it, to be fair. I'm pretty focused with my training in the, you know, pre-contest. It's pretty regimented, but yeah, you know, real simple stuff. And people ask what I do for my back, for example, because it's probably my strongest body part is, you know, back, glutes, you know, and in generally, like if I did a back double bicep, that's probably like my best shot. But it's simply deadlifting, rowing, pull-ups. That's it, you know, and plug away at it. 10 years time, you're hoping you got 100 kilos on your deadlift. Yeah. Guess what? Your back's going to be bigger with your hamstrings and your glutes as well. Not a single glute kickback, glute drive ever performed in my career. You know, the glutes are built from squats and deadlifts and leg pressing. And, you know, if you can't feel it with those, you're never going to.
I like it. I think, yeah, you know, when we spoke that first time, it was something that I found super interesting and kind of reassured certain in my head about training and stuff. And I mean, you're the way you put it, right? You do it for a decade. If you can progress for a decade, where you're going to look different.
Yeah. And things have come full circle. You got to think, you know, I'm from the Midlands in the UK, where Dorian Yates is from. Dorian Yates's gym is like 20 minutes from where I live. So a big influence on Lee and therefore me when he kind of took me under his wing. You know, he was like, what are you doing this volume for? What are you doing these exercises for? Just keep it simple, pretty hardcore. Took me through a few workouts and I was like, yeah, I love this because it's just a mental game. It's not even a physical game anymore. It's if you can outwork, you know, you will be the best, you know, and it's as simple as that. So yeah, I don't train as low volume as like, you know, Dorian Yates sort of style, you know, one all out set to failure, but I'll do two, you know, and I have recently done more, but to my detriment, it's just hindered my recovery a little bit more. So I have pulled back. I always do. I always go full circle. You know, I quite like the idea that now, since, you know, especially in the UK with Jordan Peters and HIIT training, and Dorian Yates is more on the scene now than he used to be 10 years ago. I think he has more of an influence on people, and you see a lot of people training low volume now. And it, you know, even 10 years ago, it wasn't a thing. It was very strange to do low volume HIIT training, and it was a bit quirky. Now, you know, you look at the Arnold Classic last week. You know, you have guys like Nick Walker, low volume. You know, Ian Valère, low volume. You know, and you have all these guys now that are big names. James Hollingshead in the UK here, low volume. and they all have this very thick and very strong look. And it is because they're strong. They're deadlifting 7 plates aside and squatting 7, 8 plates aside.
Awesome. Before we get kicked off, Ben, because we're running out of
yes,
time,
mate.
I want to thank you. And I appreciate you coming on last minute.
Yeah, man. Thanks. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, you betcha. Best of luck in a couple of weeks, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise to you both.
Good luck, Ben.
Thank you very much for having me on.
It.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Like the episode.
Thanks, man.
Enjoyed the chat.
And don't forget to follow Ben, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Nice one. Good luck, guys.